So in this section, we will learn how to make use of cout, and we will learn the different escape sequence, and also we will learn the three basic values in C++, and of course, we will try to do arithmetic operations in C++. To start off, I erased first the code inside the main program. So as I mentioned last time, for us to output something, we always write the cout command. Again, the cout command is connected to the IO stream. It means that the include file of IO stream should be included so that you will be able to make use of the console output command. Then it is followed by that operand, which symbolizes that anything on the right will be transferred to the console screen. So in the console screen, in the previous session, we write there a double quotations. So anything that is inside a double quotation means that it is a string or a multiple character, okay? Then afterwards, let's say for example, hello world, this is the first example, it means that this string or this sentence is considered a string in programming. Now to terminate that one and to end that command of cout, then we can just place there a semicolon. Then of course, since we are using int main, therefore we need to have the return value 0. Okay, so let's again run this one or build this one. We can see that there is no error. And if we run this one, we can also see that there is the word hello world. Okay, now what's different between this one and the previous example in the section is that there is no endl. Now endl stands for end line. It means that the cursor will go to the next line. So if you can see here, if I don't place that endl, we can see that the command, there is no space between the hello world and the process return value. Now, if we place endl, how do you write that? We need first a separator, an operand operator. Then, of course, we input the command endl. Now, bear in mind, it's endl, not end1. Okay? So if we build that one, now be careful, always build first before running the code, because if you don't build, then the previous build will be run. Okay? So if you run that, you can see now that there is a space in between. It means that the endl command means that it will skip one enter line, or it will have one line. Okay, so if we are going to add another set of strings, so we can just place there cout. Let's say this is the second line. Then, of course, we can have endl, and we terminate that one. So if we run this one, we build this one, then of course, what do you expect? You will see this line of code. Okay. Now, if we try to remove the endl, okay, if we try to remove endl, and if we write it like that, then it means that the two lines will be connected with each other because the computer does not see the command endl. Now in programming, of course, this is a procedural flow. It means that it will run always the top first, followed by the second line, the third, and so on and so forth. Okay. So next, let's try to learn more about escape sequence. Now, escape sequence are usually these are characters that manipulates the your string to the different directions. A good example of a character or a escape sequence is slash tab. Okay, so if we write there slash t at the very beginning of your code, like that, this one, okay, so if you run that one, we can see that your hello world is now indented, similar to a tab sequence. Okay, so the next one sequence is we are going to use the backslash n. Now, backslash n is similar to end L. However, the slash n can or is always placed inside a quotation. Therefore, if you can see here, the NL is placed outside. However, the escape sequence slash n stands for new line is placed inside the double quotation. So if you run this one, you can see here that it now skipped one line. No? So it's basically having two and else. We have this one and of course another and else. So for your for reference, I always use slash n, especially if I'm manipulating different strings. But you can still also use NL, and they function this similar. Their function is similar to slash n. Okay. Now, as I mentioned last time, that you can see here that a semicolon is a termination of a command. So it means that this one, the cout command, is terminated at this point. However, we can still continue this one by removing that one, and now removing also this one. So what does it mean? It means that basically everything inside of this, it's like writing it like this one big line. No? So it says cout, this is the entire command. No? Then of course, if you run this one, the operations or the output will still be the same. Okay, now the next one is we are learning how to use string commands. So if you are going to make use of a character, then you don't need to use a double quotation. You can use a single quote. Let's say, for example, this one, it means that this is just a character C. So if you run this one, so it's just a C value. It's a character. Okay. Now, if you're dealing with numbers, then you don't need to place that one in double quotation or single quotation. You just say, let's say your value is 8. No, just place it like that, 8. So it means that this is not a string, not a character, but the value 8 or an integer 8. Okay, so if you run this one, then of course you will be able to, oops, double cut. So you will be able to have that C and 8. Again, this is a character having a single quotation, and this one is a integer without a quotation. Now, there is another value which is called float, double float, float, and so on. So what's the difference between an integer and a float? Well, while an integer is, these are whole numbers, which includes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It does not include decimal points. No? So it means that that's an integer. But once you place there a decimal point such as this, 8.5, this now becomes a floating number. Okay, so if you run that one, build run, you can see that it is having the value 8.5 and so on. Okay, so now let's have let's try to manipulate, or let's have an arithmetic operation. So let's say, for example, we have this value 8 plus 5. Now, in code blocks, it still follows the rule of the MDAS rule. It means multiplication first, division second, addition, then subtraction. So in this case, we start with this one, and of course, you need to include parentheses for if there's an inclusion of operation. So in this case, if you write there C out 8 plus 5, what do you think will be the output? So the output will, let's run this one, will be the result of 8 plus 5, which is now equivalent to 13. Now if I'm going to show the string of the 8 plus 5, then of course I need to place that one, 8 plus 5. And since it's different, a string is different value than the value 8 plus 5, then therefore I need to place there a separator operators such as this. So it means that this one is a string, so what the computer sees is 8 plus 5, then the computer sees afterwards will be the result. By the way, I need to place there a equal sign. So if I run this one, if I run that one, then the result will be 8 plus 5, which is the string, which is not the value itself, equals to 13. Okay? So similar thing, let's copy this one. So for minus, so if you have this one, so if you run that code, of course, by the way, I made a mistake. So this one should be minus. So we have now 3. So if we have multiplication, so I'll just copy this one. So this is multiplication. So take note, in multiplication, you need to use star, which is above 8. And for division, which is, of course, this one. Okay, so if you run this one, you will have the value 13, 3, 4, and 1. Now, what's wrong with this one? If you see here, 8 divided by 5, it's equals to 1. The reason why it only registers 1 is because we assume that these values are integers. So again, integers are only whole numbers. The computer will try to remove any decimal numbers. So to avoid that, then therefore we need to place what we call, place there a decimal point to indicate that this is a floating number. So if you run this one again, and of course now we have the value 1.6. Okay, so take note of that. So again, if you don't place there .0, it means that it's an integer. Okay, now another thing is, another unique command is modulus. Mod or percent. Usually it's represented as percent. So what is modulus? Modulus is basically, it will take in the remainder value. So if you are, in this case, what is the remainder of 8 modulus 5? It's not the decimal, it's not 0.6, but the remainder, which is equal to 3. So if we have that one, 8 modulus 5, then I'll just terminate that one. Then we will have the value 3. Okay, so again, modulus means remainder, not the decimal point, but the remainder. Okay, so on the next session, we will be discussing on variables.